Here I am after so many years, hounded by hatred and trapped by fear. I'm in a box. I've got no place to go. If I follow my mind, I know I slaughter my own. Help me, I'm the prisoner. Won't you hear my plea? I need somebody, yeah, to listen to me. I beg you, brothers and sisters, I'm counting on you, yeah. Black babies in the womb, shackled and bound, chained by the caveman.
Peace and love. Welcome, family, again to the NEPPC podcast. I'm Brother Frank, and I'm with former political prisoner
Abdul Islam.
Today we focus on another moment, another day in time in Black History Month. It's Black History Month 2024. We can't forget anybody in our history. Today we focus on Steve Biko. Steve Biko was a Southern African, and he stood up against the conditions during his time. He was assassinated brutally at the age of 30 years old. So he was a political prisoner, a captured freedom fighter, as well as a martyr. Stephen Biko understood what his role was. He was a part of the Black consciousness movement. Now, this is very important, and it's very interesting because when we look at the time that he stood up and fought, we got to look at how does that translate to today in 2024? Where would the Black consciousness movement be? What would it stand for? That's the way we properly honor our hero, because history is supposed to be viewed so you can apply it to today's time. So when we look at what was going on in South Africa during apartheid and all the laws that were implemented, so people of other races who were not white would be subjugated. We got to look at what's going on now and looking at the oppression of working class people, the mistreatment of people of color. You know, we still dealing with police terrorism. We're dealing with the ethnic cleansing in our Black community. We're dealing with the lack of affordable housing. We're dealing with the system not being universal health care. So we have to look at these problems, right? And we got to look at those who came before us and how they were involved in the struggle for serious change, real change. Abdul Haq?
Peace and love. As Brother Frank was saying, Steve Biko's resistance and the lessons we learned from that is very, very relevant to what's happening today. You know, the self-confidence that he gave the people, you know, his struggle to remove the fear out of the people's hearts and to give them the fearlessness, you know, and the confidence that he put in the people that by themselves and not being led by Europeans that had their own interests mixed in with the so-called motive to help us, that purely by our own efforts, you know, we can get things done, you know, and we are very, very gifted, you know, by examples such as this, you know. In this day, we need this, we see a fascism that's here already, that in all signs is going to get worse and worse. You know, as Donald Duck, also known as the Orange Man, there's a probability that even if he's convicted of felonies, he's going to be the president. And he has declared that he's going to be a dictator. You know, fascism is already here and it's getting worse, you know. So we are very, very fortunate that we have a history that talks about the evil of the enemy. You know, understanding this evil puts the fight in us to resist, and also understanding the successes we've had in coming against the evil of the enemy, to to oppose him. You know, and Steve Biko is a great example, you know, of that put into action in the struggle in South Africa. If we look at history, we'll see that when there was very vast amounts of wealth, you know, economic wealth, which was the prize, you know, that is when the evil, the unmitigated and the straight up evil of our enemy, you know, came up and was demonstrated, you know. And you know, often the term brainwash is used to talk about their propaganda to for the consciousness that they want to impose on the people to prevail. It's called brainwash, but washing means making something clean. The propaganda they have put down and the fake history that they have fed our people, imposed upon our people, is not washing, but it's a brain putrefaction, you know, to make something putrid, you know, to put filth in the consciousness of the people, you know, by lying to the people. If we look at history, you know, like I was saying before, it talks about the evil of the enemy, you know, and the successes we've had in combating the evil of the enemy. February 7th is the date that the Duvalier regime was kicked out of power in Haiti, that the resistance of the people, the uprising of the people, you know, put a foot in the behind of the Duvaliers and kicked them out of Haiti. You know, this is something that happened on February 7th when they were put out of there. Um, we celebrate that. This is our second installation in Black History Month, and that's what happened on this date. Also, another good reference that we're looking at right now is the Counter Revolution of 1836 by Dr. Gerald Horne. This is, I've just read the introduction of it. It talks about um, the many massacres as in the period of time when the U.S. was posed to steal land from Mexico. They'd already stole land from California and Florida. That was on the table, was on the planning board, was put into action, was the genocide of the indigenous people that sometimes are called Indians. And the genocide of the black man. And all this laying the ground and the pattern for fascism and imperialism. So that pattern has existed and has been repeated through the history of these United States. And it's happening right now. And Dr. Horne explains that between 1888 and 1921, there was like 46 lynchings of black people. I was just listening to the radio this morning on WBAI, and it was talking about murder and torture of a black man and a black woman, in which they cut off their fingers one by one, cut off the ears, pass these out as souvenirs. They took a tool and ripped flesh from the people, and they burned the people alive. This is just an example of the evil of these people, that has been categorized as devilishness. So we understand the evil of this enemy. We understand that we must fight. We cannot just submit and try to use our behinds, as a weapon against the boots of fascism. We must stand up and fight fascism.
Yes, just like Stephen Biko did. And so when we talk about Steve Biko, we talk about his sacrifices because he was very clear about the consequences of his actions. But yeah, he stood up. Good movie for Cry Freedom with Denzel Washington, and he's in the courtroom and he's taking a position. He's confident. He's looking at his judge, his so-called judge, in the eye, letting his so-called judge understand why they took their position. He had to deal with various persecutions a number of times, but Steve Biko had love for the people, right? Because to have love means that you're going to go to action. You're going to protect the interests of your people, and regardless of the consequences. And I think that when we study history, we need to see what was going on then, see what's going on now, and understand that there's an example that we can follow, a strong model that needs to be duplicated if we're serious about change. Because our children want change. Right, they are our future. Right? They might not be conscious of it, but when we look at how their mind develops, they're looking at us. They are sponges. They're soaking up all the examples, all the ideas that we're giving them, and then they regurgitate it when the time is appropriate to validate their position. So I think that needs to be understood when we are talking to our children about history. We're talking about what happened during a certain time period and what's going on now. Steve Biko would have a position against what's going on in Palestine. Steve Biko would have a position regarding political prisoners internationally, right? Because he understood what was going on in his country. It wasn't isolated. People were being persecuted. People were being oppressed all throughout the world. Steve Biko wanted to show an example of what one should do and when one is conscious. So when I think about the Black consciousness movement, Abdul Haq, I know you were involved with the December 12th movement longer than I was. And you remember that time during the Black consciousness movement, right, my brother?
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So speak on what was going on at that time and how they looked at South Africans and what they were doing and realized that that's what they had to do during that time that the Black consciousness movement was around.
It was similar to Steve Biko's Black consciousness movement, the Black consciousness movement that the the Summer 12 movement had was a movement of young people, of students, to create a movement, a youth movement. As we know, in every revolutionary movement, the youth, the students, play a very, very critical role. So it was to enlighten them, to give them the true history, for them to understand their power, their ability to move the masses, to make history, and some of those people are still with us today, and and today we have a need for this type of Black consciousness, to flourish. Just as Steve Biko was banned, the true facts of what's happening in the world today is banned, from the media. For example, the atrocities, the horror that is going on in Gaza right now, is a present day, or right now, right this second, example of the definitions of the Satanism, that is the essence of the American system. Various leaders have said that America is the devil. Even the relief that tries to reach the people who are starving to death. The people have no water or electricity, no energy. The efforts to get these things to people have been cut off. By this evil system. And there's been many examples, like I said before, when the prize is economic wealth, then you see the horns, of this enemy coming out. You see that tail of the devil coming out when when the prize is economics, such as in South Africa, where there's great economic wealth, at stake. In the book, The Counter-Revolution of 1836, Dr. Horn talks about many atrocities committed against our people. For example, from 1883 to 1921, there were 46 lynchings. There was a greatest period of violence against our people. And as Dr. Horn points out, the violence against our people, only became slowed down somewhat because of the uprising and the fight back from our people, and this tells us that we must fight back today. Steve Biko, in his activities, in his work in South Africa, raised the consciousness of the people, and apartheid was eventually, put out of practice. It was kicked out of South Africa, and while it was in power, we must remember that it was the United States that supported apartheid. Israel supported apartheid in South Africa. This government that we're under today, the one in which fascism is on the rise right now. They're coming at our ability, our education. As a great, they see us being conscious as a great peril, a great evil,
a great threat.
And just as Steve Biko was banned, they're trying right now to ban any true analysis, any true history of what went down. One of their main, when they try to come at our education, history is one of their main targets. They don't want us to know history. So we're saying that it's very, very important when we understand that this is what the history don't want, that the enemy knows that this is what will be very, very effective against their rule. Again and again in our past, we see that our people understand, our people being educated, have come against the so-called powers that be. But we are the real power. They call themselves the power to be, but we are the real power, the power of the masses. They don't want you to know about that. They don't want you to feel that. They want you to shrink and be fearless and be fearful. Like a little shrinking insect. That's what they want. You understand? But no, we got we're human beings. We stand up for our humanity. They want to call us boy. They want to treat us like dogs. But no, we stand up for our humanity, our human rights, and we will continue to do this. And without a doubt, we're going to fight and we're going to win. And these are the things that our political prisoners fought about. When me Abu Jamal, Geronimo Pratt, you understand? Brother Matulu, we fought against these things. Also,
Imam Jamil Amin.
Imam Jamil Amin, us fighting against each other. We understand that the real enemy, this would cause us not to want to fight against one another. Our political prisoners fought for that, and we're fighting for that right now. In these United States of America, we have a Stop the Killing campaign. So we relate to the history, relate, to that which keeps us motivated, in terms of what the enemy has done to us, and their so-called, the so-called education, the so-called culture, which we understand as the propaganda of war. It's war propaganda.
Yeah,
we must see it in that way in our study. It must be an act of war against oppression.
Absolutely, man. This is a war of correct ideas. It's a war of ideas. We exchange ideas amongst ourselves, to combat the enemy's ideas. Those ideas being that we don't have a right to self-determination. We say we do have a right to self-determination. Just as every nation has a right to self-determination. What is your self-determination? How do you feel about your destiny? And whose hands should your destiny lie in? Steve Biko said, our destiny lies in our hands. Those were not his words exactly, but that's his ideas. That was his actions manifested, because he was involved in a number of organizations. As things didn't happen right in that particular organization, then he went to another organization. He did what he had to do. But when I look at the concept of black consciousness, a black consciousness movement, he said that the biggest weapon that the oppressor has is the mind of the oppressed. Right? We don't want our oppressor to have our mind. And the only way we can do that is by being conscious. That means that you have to be serious about political education. Find time to do your research. Find time to travel. Talk to people in different places. Learn how they dealt with their situation. I know when I went to Cuba, they had incredible museums that talk about the attack that was done to them by the United States. They made sure that things were kept intact. I was very impressed, and I was very inspired to do that as well, to make sure I take care of my books, make sure I maintain a library card, make sure I maintain my passport, make sure I build relationships with people from different places who share the same ideas, right? Because you can be from a different place, but your ideas could be, things are the way they are, and there's not much we can do about it. Back to Steve Biko. With the Black Conscious Movement, was not enough to just be conscious. He was acting on it. Right? Some people want to be conscious to just talk, to be able to articulate a particular idea. Steve Biko was conscious and driven to take action. He wanted to know what should be done. He wanted to know what was happening, and he was clear on why it was happening, and the fact that if you didn't do anything about it, that the conditions would continue, and they'll find their way to the next generation. So Steve Biko took a position. He was vigilant. He was very focused on what needed to be done, because he knew why it was happening, and the fact that if he didn't do anything about it, then people who were going to come after him would suffer, and they would have to take on the problem, and the problem could be even worse, right? Because if something's been around for 50 years, if people 50 years actually did something about it, then it probably wouldn't be as powerful as it is at the current time, where that particular group of people have to deal with it. So that's the importance of studying history, is to know what you need to do during the time that you are existing. So 2024, when I look at Steve Biko, I knew he would have took a position on Palestine. I knew he would have took a position on the violence that's going on in the black community, wherever he would have been at. If he'd still been in South Africa, if South Africa is dealing with a criminal aspect of his society, then he would have took a position on that, because he know that could erode people, and that's very important. And that's why in 2024 we have to look at the example of those who came before us. I know that when I look at Steve Biko, and the brother mentioned the Black Conscious Movement that came out of the December 12th movement, and it was young people who were at the front of it. I say that in 2024, you have a Black Conscious movement. You have to let those people particular age be at the forefront. Let them understand that this time is now. This history is provided to them so that they know what they need to do during this time, because they want to change the conditions, right? It does not come by waiting for somebody to provide you with an adjustment in life. Change comes through organized action, focus, discipline, commitment, right? That's key. Steve Biko was committed. He was committed to his ideas. He knew that that's the only way he gonna get respect from other people is by being committed, by showing that this is what I'm willing to fight for. I'm not going to tell you to do anything I'm not willing to do. And that's one thing I respect about him. He wasn't afraid. And you got to look at the psychological torture that goes on with how he was killed, right? He was naked in a prison, right? They already have you in prison. Why should they have you naked? They try to humiliate you. But one thing that the oppressive, this mistake that they make time after time and again is making martyrs. Because now the idea is amplified. Because now people are raising a question to themselves, amongst themselves, why was this person killed? This person must have been right. Now their ideas gain a new interest. Because now people are saying, I want to know what he knew that got him killed. And once they start reading his books, once they start hearing his speeches and talking to his comrades, then they start understanding this man was about truth. And he was so committed to his truth, or the truth that he knew was for his nation, for his people, that he put his life on the line. So we salute Black Power, salute to Steve Biko. We take his example and we apply it to the work about freeing our political prisoners. We provide our contact information for you, which is 347-679-3936. Again, that's 347-679-3936. That is my number. I'm giving you my personal number because that's how committed I am to organize action around freeing political prisoners. Sekou Odinga left us with this work to be done, and we have to be serious about doing this work. That's why you see us here every Wednesday in uniform. That's why you see us giving our best effort to raise awareness about political prisoners, because, we bonded with the brother. We took care of the brother, and we were instructed by the brother about the work that needs to be done from his experience, right? He was incarcerated. He was a freedom fighter who was captured and spent over 33 years in prison. So if he was in his 70s when he transitioned, and he was in prison for over 33 years, so it was nearly half of his life that he was in prison. But that's love. Love is put in practice, is what you put in practice around those who you say you feel that way about. And he did that, and he did that without any regrets. So in 2024, when we think about Steve Biko and we think about what he was going through, being a frontline soldier, dealing with apartheid, brutal system, right? Over 100 laws put into play to keep Black people subjugated. We got to think about the viciousness of that. But then it's all about that land, right? Your oppressor wants control of the land, wants the land for their personal agenda. And it has nothing to do with us. We're in a way regarding their agenda being carried out. We're just a Brazilian people, and we refuse to give up anything without a fight. So in 2024, when we think about Steve Biko, let us let our children know that he was a freedom fighter, that he knew what love really meant. Love meant getting busy. Love meant making sacrifices. Love meant making a commitment. So if you have to teach any children about Steve Biko, what would you say, my brother?
Well, I would say stand up. Get a true understanding. Of the world we're living in. I would try to light a fire in them to study. You understand, to analyze the system, understand the true nature of the system. I would tell them to be bold and audacious. To have confidence in themselves. Because the enemy wants you to feel that you are less than human. That you are incapable. Steve Biko, struggled, to make us always understand our true worth, our power to, to do things in a self-determining manner, So the fight in the spirit of self-determination, seeking the truth, you understand, through studying history, and black, this being Black History Month, we must have a great determination, and a great incentive to study, to study in order to differentiate truth from falsehood. To understand, the essence of a system, the essence of a world, and why we've been a perpetual state of war, since 1948. America going to war to gobble up land, steal natural resources. You understand? To understand really what's happening in the world, as opposed to what the enemy wants us to believe. One thing I wanted to mention, since we're talking about what's happening this very moment, this day in history, a recent headline that's been in the newspapers was the 3 black soldiers that was killed in Jordan, had on the U.S. uniform, going somewhere fighting for America, and I had intended, to use a very, very harsh language about these 3 black people, but I'm not going to do that. But I wanted to say, to warn, to stress to our people, the error, you understand, in going somewhere and fighting for white supremacy, and to believe that America is going around the world for justice and good, and for the benefit of humanity, when the truth is that, we've been in a constant state of war, and there's a war, there's a possibility that a World War III can come about, because right now what's happening in Gaza is a conflict over oil and natural gas, vast areas of natural gas and oil, you understand, and a trade route which China is planning for a trade route also, but this trade route that China is proposing comes in conflict with the trade route that America and Europe are trying to bring about. Understand? And this could escalate into another war. You understand? And I want people to think about. You understand? I studied it, and I studied what is the temperature of a nuclear blast. A nuclear blast, Fahrenheit, is 17,000 degrees. So this is enough for people around the world to come together and unify and fight. You understand? To prevent, in a world war, which could come about because of America's greed. You understand? Committing atrocities all over the world. This is something which can prompt us to study. You understand? To write and to communicate. You understand? And to organize. To bring about the power of the people. And studying people like brothers and sisters like Steve Biko give us the confidence. And underlines the importance of us coming together in unity. And doing this on our own, and not depending on the leadership of people that have their own selfish agenda on mind, to make this a black thing, a black consciousness thing, and part of that fundamental in that, you understand, is the fight for our political privilege. That is a priority in the fight that we have other people for our survival. These folks fought for our survival. They fought against a genocidal enemy. You understand? An enemy, you understand, who believe in torturing and murdering our people, and silencing our people, and controlling our minds, taking our minds in their own hand, in their hand, and putting in our minds what they wanted to be in the minds of our people. So we say we must liberate ourselves from these things. We must liberate our wealth. We must free the land. The slogan, free the land, you understand? So we must come together and free the land for the African, you understand, and free our people. What's the call? Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?